pioneers have blazed trails in diverse sectors, proving that sky is not the limit, rather just the beginning. Welcome to Tecno Phantom V-Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. Joining us on the show today is the very dynamic Kanika Tekriwal. She is the visionary founder of JetSetGo, the woman who has revolutionized the aviation industry. Her entrepreneurial journey is a testament of her commitment to the way she has transformed the experience of air travel for us. Let's dive deep into the skies of inspiration with Kanika Tekriwal.
Meet Kanika Tekriwal, trailblazer and founder of JetSetGo, transforming private aviation in India. With a passion for excellence, JetSetGo offers a seamless personalized flying experience, luxury, efficiency and safety all in one. With a net worth of 420 crores, Kanika's innovation has redefined the skies, making JetSetGo more than a service, it's a lifestyle.
Thank you so much for joining us on Tecno Phantom V-Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. And before we deep dive into this conversation, we'll start with a quick rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Of course, I'm always ready. Jet set ready, right?
Jet set go.
Yeah. Come on.
Favorite travel destination and why?
St. Moritz, because there's nothing better than that in the world.
Morning person or night person?
Night, for sure.
One word to describe your leadership style.
Empathetic.
Favorite book that has influenced your thinking?
Richard Branson's autobiographies. I was very young when I read them. I think I was 19 or 20.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would that be?
Mahatma Gandhi, maybe. That would be fun. I would love to know how he actually, I want the real story behind how India got freedom.
Favorite app on your phone right now?
Instagram. I'm always on Insta. I think this is the only app I use on my phone, to be honest.
I think that's the story with the youth right now.
So we just agree that we are youth right now.
Yeah, okay, done. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. I have never tasted tea in my life.
Oh, okay. One thing people might be surprised to learn about you.
The fact that I love children. Everyone sees me as this monster at work all the time, but I'm very, very fond of kids.
You know, Kanika, we've all heard your story, and like you said that you wanted to be a pilot, and you said, so if I can't be a pilot, I'm going to own my own planes. And you made that a reality. It's not as easy as it sounds. You've had your share of challenges. Tell us your story.
You know, I think for me, this is never a plan. You know, I was one of those people. If you asked me 10 years ago that, Kanika, when you were starting JetSetGo, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now or 5 years from now? I didn't have the right answer. You know, I started with, like you said, I wanted to become a pilot. I belong to a very, conservative Marwari business family where girls don't work. You know, it's as simple as that. And when I was choosing, college, I remember my dad telling me, if you really want to build a career, acquire a skill or like study finance or something, because then you can work in the family business. And they won't let you work in a way where you can interact with outsiders, so finance is the best thing. And I hated finance at that time. You know, I mean, in the 11th and 12th grade, I did commerce, and I used to have an accounts teacher who scandalized me for life. I mean, now I love finance. I can tear a balance sheet apart in 5 minutes and, read a P&L and dissect it in 30 seconds. So I was just like, okay, fine, I mean, that's the way things are meant to be. And I really, really wanted to become a pilot, and, that was something, obviously, which was not acceptable. So I actually moved to Bombay, started working at a very young age while I was in college, more to support myself and the life I wanted rather than work. And, things happened one after the other. I was lucky enough to get an aviation job of my dreams. My parents didn't know that I was doing this job. And then when they did come to know, they were like, get married or move to, go do an MBA or something. So I went to do an MBA in finance. And, I say this very openly. I never attended a day of college. I don't know how I got my degree. I used to study on my own, of course. I got good marks and everything. But I think there was also the Marwari blood in us, right? Like we just know finance by the end of it. And I came back, and then my parents wanted me to get married. And, that was something I really didn't want to do. But I think somewhere, at that age, you tend to believe what your parents are saying or what your parents are asking you to do is the right thing. So I was preparing myself mentally for it. And then I was diagnosed with cancer. And I think that's when life really changed, 360 degrees. Because it was during that period that I made up my mind that, I'm going to do everything that I want to do. It's not going to be about log kya kahenge and, what does society expect of you, what do your parents expect of you. Yes, I'm going to keep people happy. And I think that's how, JetSetGo was born. The day I recovered, I moved to Delhi. I had no money with me, nothing. And I actually wanted to start a marketplace, where people could come and list their planes, just like Make My Trip or one of these, where people would list their planes and customers could book their planes. But again, I was young, naive, and stupid. So, I thought, oh wow, I'm the next Mark Zuckerberg. I'm going to change the world. And I think everyone thought that at that time. We were like, we're all making the new Facebook. And this was in 2011, 12, when, I remember telling my dad I'm making an app, and he was like, game bana rahi ho? Because no one even knew what an app was. Like, there was only a certain generation, a certain handful of people really knew what mobile apps were. And we started, and the first flight that we booked on JetSetGo, the plane owner didn't send the plane. And I cried for days at no end, thinking this is going to be the biggest failure I've ever created. And then it took a lot for me to put myself back together. My fear was, if not this, I'll have to go back to Bhopal and live at home. So I think it was that fear of that kept driving me, or propelling me to keep trying harder and harder. And thankfully, from there, I think what our biggest learning was that what's missing in the market is not a place to book planes. But what's missing in a luxury market is that there is nobody who's able to offer the right service at the right price at the right time. How can someone pay 20 lakhs and then not have the plane turn up? Right? And that's when overnight, I think, from being, just a marketplace, I decided we're going to become an operator. And I did all the numbers, and I like, as much as I hate Excel, I remember, spending a lot of time trying to figure out what will it cost to buy these planes and run them. And what we realized was, even if we bought planes and ran them at that time, people were still selling their planes cheaper than it costed to operate them, because they were subsidizing their own cost. Like, to give you an example, if you have a car, right, but you're only using it 2 hours a day. If you start leasing out that car for the balance 8 hours, you're going to make a lot more money. But you don't need to lease it necessarily at the cost, what it costs to operate. And that's the same thing that happened with planes. So we said, what, let's fix the market first. And we went to these plane owners and we said, why are you giving your planes lower than what they cost to operate? Start charging the right prices. Make from these cost centers, make them profit centers. So we became an aircraft management company where, virtually without owning any aircrafts, we were operating the largest fleet in the country. And then again, there came a point where I think our demand far exceeded the supply we had available. And then one plane happened. I was very happy. I could never dream that I even owned one plane. And obviously the first plane, a lot of people ask me, how did you feel when the first plane came? Yes, I was happy, excited, not to sound like a selfish human being, but I was just like, only one. When's the next one coming? Before that one came, I was like, wow, we're getting a plane. Okay, when that one came, I was like, I want more. Then 2 more came, and I was like, no, that's it. So the goalpost keeps shifting. And that's why, so I think as an entrepreneur, you're never satisfied. Yeah, that's how the journey has been so far. And I think what really matters is I started the company alone, with one person that I hired as an employee. And today we're about a 200 people strong team. And I think that's what matters to me. For me, that journey has been beautiful, building these teams. I mean, I couldn't dream of, even renting an office, forget doing up an office and doing everything. We started in my chartered accountant's office. We took a desk from him on rent to start. Before that, we started in my bedroom, actually, to be honest. Yeah. So from there to here, it's been amazing. And I think I wouldn't change anything. So I think, for me, the best thing that my parents could ever do in hindsight was put me through boarding school, because it taught me how to survive. Like, it gave me skills that I had not would have otherwise had. For like being independent, it taught me how to do, like I was telling you, simple stuff. I didn't know how to tie my shoelaces. I didn't know how to, dress, because it wasn't something I was used to doing. And these simple things had become a challenge at that age. But beyond that, it just, it taught you how to live very independently. You weren't emotionally dependent on human beings, on anyone around you. You weren't socially dependent. And I think it taught me how to survive. And, it set the foundation very strong for me, and where I realized that I have to survive on my own. I have to believe in myself. I have to be my biggest motivator. And I was lucky enough to learn these things at a very young age. And I think that's what really matters at the end of the day.
What do you say to all those girls who feel that sense of restriction, but, want to spread their wings?
If I had to be very, very undiplomatic and, say things as they are, a lot of women who we meet and we see and we think are, empowered and enabled, behind closed doors, they're not. They're still going to work. And if you go into the deeper parts of the country, I don't think there's change that's really happened. women still have to stick to a narrative. Women are still expected to do certain things. So, I think it's very, very important for people like us who've been lucky and who've been given this opportunity to empower and enable these women and to, set a precedent, because, being a woman and being an entrepreneur at this time is the best thing you can do. Everyone's in your favor. The government's in your favor. The world is in your favor. It's cool to be a woman entrepreneur, right? But had my mum been doing this, 30 years ago, it wouldn't have been cool. Which is why it's very important for people like us who've been given the opportunity to set the precedent, support them in every way that we can to bring them to the workplace. Like, for example, at JetSetGo, we had this thing about, making sure there's one woman in every cockpit. And I got a lot of slack for it. It came to a point where I lost certain contracts because customers weren't happy. And I had to actually go and ask customers and tell them that when you're flying an Indigo plane or a Jet Airways plane at that time, of course, do you go and see who's in the cockpit? I'm like, no, we're flying private because we have to be the same. I said, how does gender narrate safety? And it took a lot of time to change that narrative. And that's what we have to do, slowly, I think all of us have to keep working towards fighting these smaller battles for the future generations. I met a girl very recently and she was very shy and she said, you're doing this. I'm just running a cloud kitchen. I said, you know what, you're probably making more money than I am, living a happier life than I am, and you're doing what you love and you have to be proud of it. So I think that's, my most important message would be that learn to be proud of yourself. Do things that make yourself proud. Today, I should be able to wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and, say I'm doing a great job. And I think that's what everyone needs to focus towards. I've never seen my mother have the courage to ask my father for what she wanted. And I said, I'm never going to be that person. I mean, it's a different thing now. I ask for more than I should be asking for everywhere. But yeah.
They say that it all begins with your mindset. And again, talking about you were very young when you were diagnosed with cancer, which came out of nowhere. How is it that you forge this positive mindset every time?
I think when life doesn't give you options, what do? Okay. So I wish I could say I'm this very calm person who meditates and is all zen and who knew exactly how to behave and react to a situation. I didn't know what to do. I think there was no option but to be positive. I mean, the other option was to give up, right? And one thing I'm not is a give-upper. Like, I will fight and I'll survive. So I think for me, being positive and finding the good was the only way out. And I always say this to everyone, I think it's up to us to find opportunity in every adversity. I don't think God sends you any problem without a greater plan in mind. And for me, if I look back, every bad thing that has happened to me has always been for a reason. And it's up to us to put that puzzle together and to believe in it. And I've learned this over a period of time. I'll give you an example. I was obsessed with the idea of going to NIT at one point for college. When my dad said I can't become a pilot, I said I want to go to design school. I applied the first year. I was waitlisted number 1. Okay, I applied again after a year. And I was again waitlisted 1. And my whole world came to a crashing stop. I was like, the one thing that I wanted in life, I haven't gotten. In hindsight, thank God I didn't go. So, and I think that's the way we've got to look at life. And I've learned this the hard way. When I got cancer, I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what cancer was, to be honest. And for me, there were 2 options: to succumb to the disease and, pretend to be one of those people who's always looking for pity and say, acha, meri to life khatam ho gayi, whatever. Or the other option was to make it the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. And that power lies in our hands, right? And I think the power of the mind is so important to, address. And I didn't know all this that time. I was very young. I was only 21 years old. For me, it was about, I got cancer. I was stuck in Bhopal for a year. My whole focus was, how do I get out of Bhopal first? So for that, if I had to be positive, do cartwheels or jump off a roof, I would have done it, whichever one of them. So I think, life teaches you these things as you move along. I always say now that I think marriage was the best decision I've ever taken in my life. And I say it with a lot of conviction because, I'm married to someone who is excessively calm. I'm a volcano, waiting to erupt. Anything goes wrong, I'll be like, boom, boom, boom. And he's the calmest, most balanced person I've ever met in my life. And I'll tell you what really convinced me to say yes to him when we were dating. One day, I think for about 3 months, we didn't meet for more than 1 day a month because of both our work schedules. We were always traveling away. I remember telling him that, the only way this is going to work is if I quit working. And he turned around and said, no, you don't quit working. I will stop working to make this work. And I said, his business is 20,000 times the size of mine. And he's like a real achiever, entrepreneur. His life is his business. And for him to say that to me, I was like, why am I even thinking about this anymore? I think that's what relationships have come to today. In a marriage, if a man doesn't respect a woman, he doesn't respect what she's doing, what she wants, then marriage is not going to work. And I think for me, the only reason, I'm able to take each day as it comes and, go through all the challenges that we're going through, etc. right now is because I've got a person who has my back all the time. The most important thing to me is that men start respecting their wives. And I think that's very, very crucial. If how will a woman get empowered, enabled? How will a woman respect her own self if her husband doesn't respect her? I live in a joint family. I'm traveling 20 days a month. My mother-in-law makes sure my house is ready for me. My life is set for me. She takes care of me. My clothes are done. Everything is done. And I mean, I'm blessed. I don't think my mom will do that for anyone. So, and I think that's what marriage is about. It's about making things work in a manner where you don't put either person down.
So you had said that one of the reasons of JetSetGo also was that you realized that there was a lack of transparency in the private sector of the aviation industry, and you wanted to change that. Again, what was it like at that point, and how do you see it now?
I think the biggest problem in the market at that point of time was customers didn't get the aircraft they wanted. Customers got the aircraft that brokers wanted to give them, which made the broker the maximum money. It was a very opaque market. One day, through one broker for the same plane, you could be paying X. Third day, for the same plane through another broker, you could be paying Y. And I think that's what was preventing the market from growing. Because when customers don't have trust in our industry, they're only using it when they're compelled to use it. They're not using it because they want to use it. And I think that's what we wanted to change, and that's what we've seen change. Now it's a market where, firstly, customers are being able to see and feel and touch what they're really paying for without being cheated or without feeling cheated. Customers are flying because they want to fly, not because they're being compelled to do so. And I think the other biggest change that's actually come in the market is aircrafts weren't being sold at what they costed to operate, right? Finally, now it's come to a point where the market's matured enough, grown enough, where people are selling aircrafts at the right prices, and we're not scared to increase prices. 5 years ago, if you looked at the private jet per hour pricing, for 5 to 6 years, the prices never changed. But all the input costs kept going up. Fuel went up. You increase people's salaries. And finally, now it's happened that, people take steps to change prices, to do realistic pricing, to focus on service, which is so important in the luxury industry. I remember using one of the planes very, very early when we were starting out for a customer. And he's a pure vegetarian, Jain, and we gave so many instructions to the plane owner's team that only put cucumber sandwiches on board and only do this, and he's Jain and this. He went on board, and the only thing that was available for him to eat was chicken sandwiches. I think that's what's changed. That's the biggest thing. Service levels have increased, and the industry is finally growing much faster than it's ever grown in the country. The maximum number of planes that have ever been imported in India have been imported in the last 1 year, and I think it's only going to grow exponentially from here.
Kanika, there's so much to talk about, but we have to slip into a very short commercial break right now. And yes, it's time for a short break on Tecno Phantom V Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. We'll continue our conversation with Kanika on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Tecno Phantom V Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. We are in conversation with Kanika Tekriwal. Kanika, I want to ask you, in all the ups and downs that you've seen, what for you was the turning point in your life that changed you forever?
I think, for me, the turning point definitely was cancer. Because, before that, I was still a person who did what was right, what I was asked to do. I didn't question status quo. I didn't, challenge everything. And I think it was cancer that taught me to believe in myself, to have the ability to question things, to believe in my own ideas, my own dreams, my own wishes, and to actually do things without being scared. In a way, I say cancer made me invincible. Had it not been for cancer, I don't know if this would have happened. I mean, God has a life plan for everyone. But I owe a large part of whatever I am today, I think, to getting cancer and to my parents who handled it the way they did, without which, I don't think I would have been half the person I am.
You've said that when you started out, you were handling one flight in 1 week. Today, it has reached a stage where every minute you have a flight that is in the air from JetSetGo. And today, 73% of the chartered flights are being handled by your company. Is there a sense of pride somewhere that, yes, I've done it? And where do you see JetSetGo going from here?
I don't think there's a sense of pride, to be honest, because, there's so much left to achieve and there's so much left to change. But I do feel very grateful at times, that I've been lucky enough to survive in this industry. It's a very, very hard industry in terms of, financially. There's a saying, in fact, if you're a billionaire and you want to become a millionaire, start an airline. It's one of the most challenging industries in the world for the simple reason that there are so many factors beyond your control in this industry. If the weather gets spoiled, you can't, do anything about it. But you're losing money by the minute. You have customers screaming down your throat. Day before, we had a bird hit at Bangalore airport. A bird went inside our aircraft's engine. Now, there's nothing I can do to control that. There's nothing the pilot can do to control. So, this is an industry of unknowns. And what I do take pride in is that I've had the, confidence and the courage to take this industry head on and say, I am going to make it a profitable industry. And I may be young, I may be a woman, and I may be in a male-dominated industry, but I can still, change it and shake it up. And I think we did shake it up, no doubt. I've made more enemies than friends in the industry for the simple reason that we've questioned and challenged what everyone has done historically. So I do have great pride in that we've been able to set a precedence for the rest of the world for women. And I think the future, there's so much. So, I personally believe that aviation needs to be democratized. And why I say that is today, if you look at the world 50 to 70 years ago, the primary mode of transportation was horses or horse carriages. And only the 0.1% of the rich people could afford cars, right? They were so expensive. And if you look at the present day world, almost everyone can afford a car or a two-wheeler or afford to, if not buy a car, move in one. And I think that's the way aviation is going. It's being controlled by large OEMs for the longest time, where planes are expensive, infrastructure is expensive, but that's changing. And I think the future is about, enabling private air mobility for the masses at a price that they can afford. And why that's going to happen realistically also is, there's only so much space left on Earth to build more roads and cities. There's only so much more time you can spend in traffic, and there's only so much more space left to park cars. I mean, having lived in Bombay, I think half the road always used to be occupied with parked cars. And that's what we're changing. So, we're working very actively to bringing eVTOLs in the country, where I hope I can fly you from home to office and office to home. And, at the same cost as what it costs you to use an Uber today, but at almost 1/10 the time. And I think that's our focus. That's what we're working towards right now. And I think that's where the world is going towards too.
And how would you say, Kanika, that technology empowers women to challenge and shatter traditional gender norms and empower women to take control of their lives?
The key thing that technology does to you is connect you to the world, open your eyes to the rest of the world. There is no better way to actually educate a woman than using technology, because she doesn't need to go to school. She doesn't need to go to, I would say a 45-year-old woman doesn't need to go to school or go out to go and see what's happening in the world. That phone tells her, what is happening in the world, what is new, what can she change, what can she do. So I think, tech's the best thing that's happened to us.
And Kanika, before we let you go, for all the millions of girls watching you right now who want to be like you, they are so inspired by you, what's your message to them?
I think there's only one thing that I say, believe in yourself. And don't look for motivation, conviction, advice from the rest of the world. I don't think I'm wise enough to be giving any advice to anyone, to be honest. But I always say you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you can do it. If you don't believe in yourself, no one in the world is going to believe in yourself. Don't, it's up to you to turn every no into a yes and use every no as a stepping stone to success.
On that note, Kanika, we'll take a selfie.
Done.
Okay.
With a cool new phone?
Yes, with the Tecno phone.
I think, for me, the turning point definitely was cancer. Because, before that, I was still a person who did what was right, what I was asked to do. I didn't question status quo. I didn't, challenge everything. And I think it was cancer that taught me to believe in myself, to have the ability to question things, to believe in my own ideas, my own dreams, my own wishes, and to actually do things without being scared.
Kanika's trailblazing journey in the aviation industry is an inspiration for all of us. We'll be back next week with yet another interesting story. Until then, stay tuned to Tecno Phantom V Flip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. Thank you for watching.